Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday Unlocked live stream. I am Jessie Lang, and if you guys do not know me, I help people buy 1 to 3 rental properties per month on autopilot. I usually have my co-host here, Lizzie, but today it is just me. It's just me, and we are going to be talking all about the 1099 process. So this is going to be important if you are an investor, a real estate investor, a small business owner, a coach, anything where you are paying people from an entity. And so we are going to talk all about that process, and we're talking about it now because there's actually some steps that you need to take earlier than January to get ready for that process. So you have all of December. And if you're anything like me in past years, you may not have done a lot of this yet. So there may be some cleanup work to do. It took me 5 years, but I finally learned my lesson and I'm all caught up on my 1099s. Okay. So we will hop into it. I do first, of course, have to say that I am not a CPA. I am not a tax professional. I am sharing what I have learned as a landlord, as a business owner. Always double check any specifics with your CPA, your accountant, whoever is helping you with your taxes this year, okay? And as you guys know, this is super interactive, so I see some folks on now. Just let me know if you have any questions in the comments, and I will be happy to get those answered for you. So let's hop in. Okay, so what is a 1099? You probably have heard, oh, I'm all 1099 what does that mean? Why does it matter? The simple answer is a 1099 is a tax form that you would send out to anyone that you paid $600 or more for services during the year. And that person is not an employee and they're not a corporation or an S Corp. Okay. So you're basically telling the IRS, hey, I paid this contractor money during this year. That's it. So it lets you write expenses off on your taxes, and then that form would have them claim that income on their own taxes. So it basically transfers an expense from you to income to someone else. Okay. You do not need to send a 1099 if it is like material only purchases, if it's for rent on like your personal, your rent at home, any employees, kind of like I said, if someone's on a W-2, you don't need to 1099 them. They get their own forms for that. And then here's a tricky one that kind of throws people off. If you paid someone with a credit card, PayPal, Stripe, anything where they're going to get a 1099K from that credit card processor, then you would not need to 1099 that person. This is so exciting. It's thrilling information, you guys. It's going to be a little dry, but I'm telling you, it is super important to understand this. And I'm going to give it to you in the shortest, most condensed way that I can. Okay. So don't send a 1099 for materials only, your rent for your housing, employees, or anything where the credit card processor will issue a 1099K. Who should you get a 1099 from? So if someone did the work for you, you paid them $600 or more during the calendar year, and you paid them with cash, check, Zelle, Venmo, then you would send a 1099. So in the real estate business, this is contractors, handy people, your cleaners, your photographer, probably lawn care, snow removal. Our lawn care company lets us pay on a credit card, so we would not 1099 them, right? Because they're going to get it through Stripe or however they take that credit card. But if you're paying someone Venmo cash, you will need to keep track of that. You don't need to 1099 an S Corp, which is a designation of an LLC, or a C Corp as a corporation. So if you bought a bunch from Home Depot, you're not going to need to email Home Depot and say, hey, can I have your W-9 so I can give you a 1099? They will never respond to you. So don't do that. And then, like I said, many LLCs are taxed as an S Corp. And just because it's an LLC doesn't mean it automatically exempts them. They're only exempt if they are classified as an S Corp. So you may pay, say, a roofing company, and you say, hey, I need your 1099, or I'm sorry, I need your W-9 with the information required. And they're going to say, oh, I'm an S Corp. I don't need to send you one. So that's fantastic. I just make sure that I have a record of that on file, and then I'm kind of good to go. You don't need to send one out for that. Yeah. And Lizzie's saying that this year's the threshold is $600. Next year, with the big, beautiful bill, regardless of your political opinion, anything you think, there were some positive changes in there for business owners. So as of next year, the threshold will be $2,000. So anyone from $600 to $2,000 next year, you wouldn't have to send them a 1099. So it's just going to save you some effort. I mean, you're still going to need to like understand and own this process. It's just maybe fewer people will receive one. Okay. So what kind of 1099s are there? Like the most common would be a NEC. So you'll see like 1099-NEC. Those are contractors. You paid the $600, next year $2,000. And that's one that you send out. Then there's MISC for things like prizes, awards, royalties. That's kind of random. You probably won't see much of that in your business. A 1099K would be sent, like I said, by those payment processors. So PayPal Business, Venmo Business, Stripe, Square, any credit cards. 1099 INT is interest. That one, if you are paying private lenders, so, we have a handful of private lenders that I have used over and over and over. I keep really good records of how much money I've sent them. And at the end of the year, they get a 1099 INT saying, hey, I paid you this much. And, it could be tens of thousands of dollars in interest over this calendar year. And then they need to claim that as income. So 1099 INT, there's DIV for dividends. There's, some real estate. There's cancellation of debt. There's a whole laundry list. But the most common ones that you're going to need are the NEC and probably INT, the interest. Okay. So what is the timeline for this? Like I said, we are talking about this now because from my own experience and from working with students all across the nation, there is going to be some cleanup that you need. If you have not been collecting W-9s from your contractors before the work is done, you're going to have some work to do. You need to go collect all those now. Hopefully, those folks don't disappear. And why would they disappear? Because they don't want to claim that income on their taxes. I have seen it happen more times than I would like to admit. Okay. Like I said, myself and my students. So our process now, if we're ever onboarding a new contractor, we always get a 1099 prior to paying them, because before I pay them, I actually have leverage to get what I want. As soon as I pay them, who knows what's going to happen? Hopefully, 90% of folks are good, but there's that sliver there that may just disappear on you. So you're collecting this W-9, but what does it tell you, right? It's the legal name, their name, a business name, whoever the entity is that you're paying, an address, where to send the 1099, tax ID or social security number, depending how they are registered, and then a business type. And so if the S Corp is selected, then you won't need to send a 1099, but this W-9 is what actually tells you that, right? So you have to have all of this information. You can't just say, hey, I paid Joe Smith $2,000 this year. I mean, you need to there needs to be more classification in the eyes of the IRS on who's actually being paid. And so if you don't have the W-9, you really can't file anything. And that means that you talk to your CPA on this one. There's debates back and forth if you can still write it off or if you can't. But the best practice is you just have that W-9 ahead of time and you don't have to worry about any of this, okay? So you collect the W-9. The other thing that has to be done that you may be playing some catch up on is your books. You have to understand who you paid and how much money you paid them. If you don't have your books cleaned up, how are you possibly going to understand I paid my contractor X, Y, and Z? So whether you are operating off spreadsheets, which I hope you're not, but some people are masterful at this, whether you're operating on spreadsheets or QuickBooks, we have everything in QuickBooks. You have to know how much money people received. So then I will run a report. I will cross-reference that we have W-9s for everyone. If somehow someone slipped through the cracks, I'll go get that W-9. And then, okay, so year-end checklist, like I said, you pull the payments in whatever tracking system you're using, verify W-9 info matches who you paid, and check how you paid them. So if you paid ACH or check, they get a 1099 for that. If you paid on credit card, then they don't. So you got to know those things. Like I said, it took me really 5 years of pain around tax season, a good 5 years of entrepreneurship before I really figured out you just got to do this stuff ahead of time. The whole point of this channel, you guys, is to teach you my mistakes so that you don't make the same mistakes as I do. So please, please, please get your stuff together ahead of time. And then once you have it all together, it's time to file. So the easiest thing you can do is you can send it all to your CPA and they can file it for you. It's not probably going to be the least expensive of the options, but it's the most hands-off. It is definitely the one that I do. And alternative is if you are working in QuickBooks, then you can file through QuickBooks. The only downside is QuickBooks does not do 1099 INT. So actually, long story short, but we had to do it 2 different ways last year because of this. So I just send them all to my CPA. There's some element of data entry, right? They have to get the paper 1099, they have to put it into the form and all this, and you're going to pay $15 per. I mean, it's nothing crazy, but it can add up if you're doing a lot of business. But still, for someone else, I'm a big fan of outsourcing. So if I can outsource this to someone else, it is worth my time and effort. So yeah, you plug it in to whatever software you're using, and then it is uploaded basically directly to the IRS. In addition to that, the contractor also receives a copy in the mail and digital if you have their email address. So that's it. Then you're done. What are your timelines for this? So to send to your contractors and to file with the IRS, you have until January 31st. You're like, Jesse, it's December. It's the beginning of December. Why are we talking about this now? You have some cleanup work to do. Go get your books in order. Go start do an audit on your W-9s that you have, and go and start collecting the ones that you're missing, because I know you're going to be missing some. And then we always aim to have these sent out by January 15th. Technically, you could submit these as soon as January 1st. If all of your ducks are in a row, if you spent the rest of December getting everything ready, I mean, you could file January 1st and you could be done with the whole 1099 process from your point, from you as the entrepreneur, like first week of the month of the year, and just get off your plate. Okay. If you do not file by January 31st, late fees can start from $60 to $100 per form. And depending how many you have to submit, that could definitely add up. So some of the most common mistakes that I see for myself and from students is, you forget if you paid them directly or through a credit card. If you're operating in QuickBooks, it will show what account it was paid out of. So that should be pretty easy to figure out. Maybe you 1099 an S Corp, you didn't need to do that. The biggest mistake is not collecting the W-9s. So I've said it 10 times. Don't be that person. Collect the 1099 prior to paying them for the work that was done. Okay. So landlord specific tips here. If you pay a GC, you can 1099 them for the labor, even if they bought the materials. If they GC the subs, you don't issue a 1099 to the subs. The GC does, right? Because they're the ones who paid that subcontractor. You did not pay the subcontractor. So that one's pretty self-explanatory. If you use a property manager and you didn't pay anyone but the property manager, that will make it a little bit more simple, right? This process will be a little bit more simple. You're going to get the 1099 MISC for money that I received, or I'm sorry, for rent that I received. And then the 1099 to contractors, they would submit because you just pay the property management company, okay? Whoever cut the check is responsible for the 1099. That's the rule of thumb. All right, y'all. So I'm telling you, this was fast. Lizzie has a question. So what happens if you don't collect the W-9? Can you still file claim the money spent? So I was saying that there's multiple schools of thought on this, and you should check with your specific CPA because some say yes, some say no. We just collected, we collect it and we write it off, and I've, knock on wood, yet to be audited. But that was years ago. I've had my books way, way, way more clean and my process way more clean. So that is, if you have one takeaway from this, the nitty gritty, you have a high level overview here. The nitty gritty, your CPA can help you with, but your biggest takeaway as an entrepreneur should be do not wait until the last minute and collect the documents you need while you have the leverage, which is before you pay. Yes, this does make your head spin. It does. But once you do it once, maybe twice, it is not as difficult as it seems, especially if you are good at record keeping. So you guys spend the next couple weeks and through January getting this all sorted out. If this is something that you are looking for some more support on, not necessarily the tax portion, but all these things to think about, right? People get into entrepreneurship and they're like, I want to own a business. Well, you don't know X, Y, and Z even has to be done, right? I remember my first year as an entrepreneur, I literally found out about 1099s like a week before they were due. No one tells you this stuff. And so if you're looking for some accountability, some support, we have an awesome real estate mastermind. It's called Rentals Made Easy. I am your personal coach and I support you through every single step of rental properties, entrepreneurship, mindset of entrepreneurship, the steps that you have to take. And we bring in experts. So I know this process because our CPA comes into the community and teaches directly into our community. So if that is something that you are interested in, Lizzie is going to drop a link in the chat, and we would love to get on a call with you and just kind of see if it's a good fit. No pressure, very low pressure call. And then see if it's a good fit to get some more support. And it's a journey. Entrepreneurship is a journey. And the more you surround yourself with people doing the same thing as you, the better off you are going to be. So we'll post that link and it will be in the replays as well. If you guys have any questions, you can always find me. And thank you so much for your time. I will see you next week.